Hello and welcome to the Winging It Travel Podcast YouTube channel. Join me on my journey as I travel across the world, seeking out adventures, meeting new people and trying out new things. On this week's episode, we are checking out Penticton and the wine region around Naramata. Then our fantastic drive to Nelson and the surrounding areas and lake. Fantastic that is. And then finishing off with Two Jacks Lake, right near Banff in the Rockies. Let's get stuck in. Hello and welcome to the next solo episode of the Winging It Travel Podcast, and today we are talking days 10 to 15 and we're going to cover the Vancouver rest days, Penticton area and then Nelson and Two Jacks Lake. First of all, we got back to Vancouver after the Vancouver Island trip to regroup, do some admin, some shopping, be in a room in a house, not in a campsite for once. We didn't feel like we needed it, but it was a nice little break, done some washing and stuff like that. But nothing really to tell about Vancouver. Caught up with some friends, had some dinner, collected some items for the van. So we collected a battery source for the van. It's down there to my left. This provides output of electricity to charge your phone, the fridge, whatever you want. Fairly expensive, but I think it's fairly needed. And so far, since we bought it, it's been an absolute godsend. We bought some rain guards for the car as well. So they're the two purchases that we made, collected them and we're off. So we left at 11 a.m, pretty leisurely, got out of the friend's place about 10, done some shopping, out at 11. It's going to take 4.5 to 5 hours to get to Penticton, and the aim was to get to the Okanagan Lake South Campground, and that was where we're going to stay for one night, but we actually wanted to stay for 2 nights but could only book one. Same as last time, get there, check in, and then hopefully in the morning we can extend the stay. A fairly nice drive, fairly quiet, very, very hot day. This was a day where we started to realise that the campervan's getting quite warm. The fridge was suffering. So we just realised that this could be a warm night. Got to the campground probably around 4:30, 5 p.m, and I was knackered. Done all the driving this day. I just wanted to lay down. This is where I decided that I thought we needed a hammock. So I went on Canadian Tire and bought that next day. But at that time, that was what I needed. Didn't have it. Went down towards the lake, sat there. I was just totally gone, totally knackered. But the campsite was great. Again, it's around the $32, $35 a night mark. It's got showers, toilets, bins, and a nice spacious campground for you to park in. Lovely evening. Okanagan Lake had a slight misty, maybe smoky, fiery feel in the evening, but fantastic sunset, great colours. The water is pretty fresh. I didn't go in. But a very, very nice setting as you look over towards the other side of the lake where the vineyards are. Cooked dinner, chilled out, real early evening, but it was warm, and it was noticeably warm because we had the fan on. And I reckon it didn't get cool probably until 2 or 3 in the morning. It was that warm. So this was a new thing for us in the campervan. But a great drive, got there safely. The next day was a leisurely day at the vineyards. We were planning to do 3 or 4. Had some recommendations from a friend of ours, which I'll come to in a minute, but also from the campground host, who recommended one called Dirty Laundry on our side of the lake. But first of all, we went off to Penticton town for a coffee. We were recommended to a coffee place called Sensational. They're a lovely little kind of hidden away cafe right in the middle. I think it's High Street where the Sunday market is. Fantastic coffee. It's got great rooms there to chill out, do some work, spacious. And we had 2 coffees because it's that good. So very, very good. Recommend it. I also done an episode on that on the Trendy Coffee podcast. So the first vineyard we checked out was called Four Shadows. This was a family-run vineyard, very small. This is the first vineyard that you see on the Naramata bench. This is a road on the other side of the lake to where we're staying. Lots of vineyards on this side and just super awesome views. Four Shadows. I didn't actually have a wine tasting here. I had to be careful when driving. Can't have too much. But Emma divulged in, I think, 5 wines there. They all looked and tasted pretty good. I actually tasted a little bit of one. I liked it that much that we bought a bottle of it. I think it's the Riesling, so fantastic. Next one was Lock and Worth Vineyard, purely because it has cheese. So it's cheese and wine. This was recommended to us by Adam from the Tripology podcast, who lives in Naramata. He said the cheese and the wine is fantastic, so we went there. I done the cheese tasting, Emma done wine and cheese. And we're hanging around sort of $10 to $15 each here for tastings. The Four Shadows ones, if you bought a bottle of wine, it sort of alleviates the cost of the tasting, so we did buy that bottle of wine. But Lochinworth, we just done cheese tasting and wine. Best thing about this place, the view over the lake. Sunny day, vineyards everywhere, just absolutely perfect conditions, and the cheese was fantastic. Next door, Creek and Gully. This is a cider tasting place. Again, looks quite modern actually. It's got nice benches outside, right into pretty much in the vineyard. Fantastic views again over the lake. I did do a cider tasting here. I don't like cider. I think it's pretty overrated as a drink, but gave it a go, and they're all right. The best thing about it was the finishing apple juice at the end. That was fantastic. But again, we sat there in the chairs, admiring the view, just sensational. Next after that, we're going to drive all the way around back to our side and go to Dirty Laundry. This is a recommendation from the campground host, Isabel. Got there, they had an event. They thought we were interested, $80 for an event. We said, no, we're out. And I think it's wise, because I think Emma had quite a bit of wine. I've obviously had some cider, so I couldn't really drink any more. It was time to go back. Forgot to mention, in the morning, we did go to the campground host to ask for an extension on the campground. Officially, it was no, it was all booked out. But they actually put us in the overfill section, which is there for like big cars or camper vans that need extra space. They said you can have that one or two nights if you want. We chose one because we had to get going next day. So that was a bit of luck in the morning. But we got back to the campground in the evening and just chilled out and prayed it would get cooler. Again, another super warm, hot day, and the car was going to be warm again in the evening. Day 14, we're off early at Penticton. But we're going to meet Adam from Tripology. So we went to Sensational again for a coffee. Met Adam, had a great chat for an hour and a half. Really cool to meet the guy. Hopefully I'll go on this podcast one day. The other half of Tripology, Alan, has come onto the podcast. That's a few episodes ago. Great to have a coffee and learn about the area and what he's up to. That was super awesome. Then we're off. The plan was to get to Nelson. We went on to go to north to the mountains because it'd be cooler, higher elevation, maybe potentially a bit nicer in the evening, but we gave Nelson a go. It was actually more like a desert-like feel. It could get really cool in the evening, so we thought we'll give that a go. We drove probably around 325 kilometres to Nelson. It's a bit of a fair whack.
Look at that. Big blue water.
The journey to Nelson was super cool and super fantastic. You drive into a Soyuz, pretty much down to the US border, and we got off out of the car for after about an hour. Amazing views over the area, just sensational, like lake, greenery, little township, amazing views. And you're starting to go up the Crow's Nest Highway, so quite a lot of climbing up in the van. Very hot day. We did stop at a really random place called Greenwood. They have a coffee place called Deadwood Junction. Very old school, looks like Wild Wild West in the 1700s, that sort of feel. But really good coffee and loads of cakes, sandwiches and ice cream if you want to chomp into those for your journey. But a real old school feel in terms of the town. And technically, these guys are the smallest city in Canada. I would not call it a city. It's barely a village. But it's worth checking out. But overall, the journey was filled with greenery, rolling hills. It really is a fantastic drive down there. You're starting to hit the lakes into the valleys and stuff like that where Nelson is. So unexpected but awesome drive. You really should do it once if you do a Soyuz over to Nelson around the Crow's Nest. Highly recommend it. And no one on the roads, super quiet. Got to Nelson late afternoon, as I said, and we went straight to a brewery called Backroads Brewery and managed to get a nice little beer each for around $4 to $5. This is a patron shout out to Laura from the Swamp Soup Stickers, who has contributed £5 to the podcast on my Patreon. Thank you so much for your support. Really appreciate it, and it helps the podcast to keep going in the future. If you're interested, head to the show notes where you'll find a link to my Patreon. The website address is patreon.com/Winging It Travel Podcast. For £5 English, you will receive some trendy stickers from myself in the post, a shout out on each episode, and also my digital travel planner by email. Thank you for your support. We hadn't booked anywhere yet because there wasn't anything available online, so we're going to do the old trick of turning up or ringing on the day. And we managed to find a campsite, and this was a super find and much needed. These guys are called Cool Waters RV Park, and they are in the shade by a stream. Instantly felt cool. Got there, lovely couple who owns it, $35 a night. You get a shower, some toilets, a reading room, believe it, and some recycling storage. Really nice couple. Arrived, not too busy, just sat there in the shade and cooled down. It was a bit of a dream. Fantastic night in the van, finally cool, and we did make the choice to go up towards Canmore the next day. So we dipped into Nelson first for a coffee and to go to Walmart. So the coffee was at Oso Negro. They're a fantastic local cafe. They're quite known in the area. They spread their coffee about. Went down to Walmart, parked the car, and there's a little walkway up sort of lakeside, lakefront, and you can see the couple of bridges by the lake. I think it's technically a river or lake. Fantastic views. Another clear, hot day. Just really nice to walk. You probably take an hour doing that, just walking from one end to the other, but we had a short amount of time. So we've done a little bit of it, got in the car, and got to move on. The aim was to get to Two Jacks Lake. It's by Banff. It's going to be a heck of a drive, over 5 hours, probably around 520 kilometres, something like that. We stopped in Cranmore for lunch, bit of shopping, much needed, and then we blasted our way right up to the Rockies. The area was a little bit smoky, and I think quite busy, because the people obviously still going there, but there were some warning signs about some roads and some queues and stuff like that. But I was super excited to get back to Canmore, because that's one of my favourite places on earth. Got to Two Jacks Lake in the evening. We did book this one in advance. A little bit pricey here. It's $44 a night. They make you pay for a firewood fee. We didn't need it. You got no choice. You see that on reviews. I think that's $11, so it is roughly around 32 to 35 normally, but they do charge for that firewood as well. Unbelievable they even allow that, considering the amount of fires that are going on around the area. Got there, and it's great to be back by a lake. Two Jacks Lake is a fantastic little lake. Got nice little chairs everywhere, great views left and right. It goes into another lake towards the left. It really is a fantastic place to have a cup of tea, which we did. Had a cup of tea, done some work, enjoyed the evening and the sunset. Dreamy place. That is wrapping up day 15. Nice little 5-day journey that. The next one will be going into Camel. Can't wait to go back. Calgary, and then going on to Grasslands National Park. That's going to be the next episode. A real change in scenery and type of travel for that one. Saw a lot of new things. But for this one, great to be back in a wine region. It's pretty cool. Reminds me of New Zealand. Great to see some lakes, and great to be back in the Rockies. A real nice part of the stretch, this one, and a lot of kilometres travelled. We're talking roughly around 1,000 kilometres on this one. It's pretty insane how much we're doing. And up to this point, I think we're getting towards the 3,000 mark already. So I'll catch you next episode. Thanks for tuning in. Appreciate it. You can rate and review on all the podcast platforms, and I look forward to seeing you soon. Cheers.
Please follow and subscribe on my YouTube channel today, and please rate and review the podcast on any podcast platform that you use. Thank you.